When Congressman Jared Moskowitz took the mic, he didn't waste a second. He went straight for the contradictions in Marco Rubio's foreign policy. From Iran to leaks about Israel, Moskowitz challenged the secretary on whether this administration's tough talk actually adds up, or if it's all just theater.
Now recognizes Representative Moskowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me extend my condolences to the Connolly family. Jerry's wit will be missed in this Congress. And so in the spirit of Jerry, let me say, Mr. Secretary, that I am deeply disappointed and find your performance as the National Archivist extremely underwhelming. And just for the record, we don't get to confirm here in Congress, but if we did, I would have voted against your confirmation as the National Archivist.
That vote never happened, so.
I know. I want to talk about Iran for a second, okay? I'm deeply concerned about the language that I'm seeing from the isolationist wing of the party. And I've been kind of shocked that the administration seems to be tougher on Canada, Greenland, than they are on Iran. The Ayatollah insults our president. If the language coming from the Ayatollah was coming from Canada or Greenland or the EU, the president wouldn't stand for it. Yet he allows it from the Ayatollah. Is it your recommendation? I understand that you can't guarantee what Trump would or would not do, but it is your recommendation to the president that he sign no deal that allows Iran to keep enrichment?
Well, here's the answer to that question is the president has made clear that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. He's also been clear, and I think you've seen this in statements over the weekend, for example, that Ambassador Witkoff did on television and the like, that if you have an enrichment capability at any level, you are but steps away from nuclear weapons. So I think that's why the no enrichment piece is so important.
Right, of course, and that was the issues that many people had with the JCPOA, is they felt that it kept the enrichment capability along with ballistic missile capability, which Iran now has, okay, a delivery system. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, there are many players in this, and I'm going to ask about those, but is it your recommendation, should the president ask of it, I assume he would, is it your recommendation to the president that he sign no deal that keeps their ability to enrich?
Yeah, and he doesn't need that recommendation because he's already said that.
Okay. Is it the vice president's position in your conversations with VP Vance that he also does not believe Iran should have any enrichment?
Well, I'm not going to describe our conversations, but I can tell you the vice president is completely aligned with the president in his foreign policy.
So that is his position then?
The position that they shouldn't have enrichment.
Yeah, is that the vice president?
If they have enrichment, then they will have a weapon, or at least there'll be and everybody in the administration has been consistent on that.
Okay, what about Mr. Witkoff? Is it his position that Iran should not be able to have any enrichment capabilities?
He has said so in public interviews as recently as this weekend, that this is not an enrichment deal, what level Iran gets to keep enrichment. What they have said is if Iran wants a civil nuclear program, like they want to have nuclear energy, there's ways to do that. Other countries have done it without enrichment. That opportunity is available to Iran if they seek it. They haven't been interested in it because they want to keep enrichment. That's the crux of what we're facing here.
So any deal the Trump administration is not going to look anything like JCPOA. Is that your position?
The Trump administration has been very clear that Iran will not get to enrich because if they enrich, they're a threshold nuclear power.
Okay. I want to shift for a second. There was just a leak that is now national news that Israel is poised to strike Iran. Where did that leak come from in the administration? Do we know what department leaked that? Is that being looked into?
Well, I'm not aware of the leak that you're discussing. I'm obviously, I wouldn't discuss intelligence matters and even verify whether it's even true. I also don't think it's a mystery, though. Irrespective, I'm not talking about the leak, I'm not talking about the news story, that Israel has made clear that they retain the option of action to limit Iran from ever gaining a nuclear capability. I don't think that's a mystery, but I wouldn't comment, if I had read the article, I wouldn't comment on intelligence matters, confirm or deny them. As far as leaks are concerned, I don't know. I read stuff in the news every single day that I look at and say, I don't know where these people are coming up with this.
Well, I mean, they're given polygraph tests in FEMA to determine where leaks are coming from. That's been well reported and not disputed by anyone in the administration, that they're literally going employees, sitting them down, putting them up to a polygraph, putting them up to, an oxygen monitor, trying to test their heart rate to figure out if they're leaking to the media. Is that sort of same application that is happening in FEMA going to be applied to the National Security Team and to the State Department to figure out who is leaking?
As far as I'm aware, we've not conducted any polygraph tests at the Department of State. Maybe we should, but we haven't.
Okay. All right. So I just want to be clear, because there is a lot of confusion depending on the day, the week, and a lot of the reporting that's coming out. Is that any Iran deal, is it your recommendation that that should go to Congress to
I actually think the law requires it. If you recall, we passed legislation here a few years ago, and it requires that Congress has a right to weigh in on any deal and could actually reverse any deal. I forgot the acronym for the bill, but it was one that was passed a few years ago, and I was in the Senate when it passed. It was after JCPOA.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
When Jared Moskowitz took the microphone, the tone of the hearing shifted. What he was doing wasn't simply pressing Marco Rubio about Iran. It was exposing the contradictions that have been building in America's foreign policy for years. Moskowitz started from a place of sincerity, acknowledging the loss of a colleague, but then pivoted sharply to accountability. He said, almost with disbelief, that he'd vote against Rubio's confirmation if he had the chance. It wasn't a theatrical jab, it was a warning that performance without principle has consequences. Moskowitz's questions about Iran carried layers that go far beyond nuclear enrichment. On the surface, he was asking whether the administration would ever sign a deal that lets Iran continue enriching uranium. But underneath that, he was pointing to a crisis of credibility. The United States has spent decades insisting that its leadership on the world stage rests on consistency, on moral clarity, on the idea that America sets standards others follow. Yet here, Moskowitz suggested that consistency has disappeared. He highlighted what he called an isolationist wing inside the administration, one that speaks with toughness toward allies like Canada or the EU, but shows hesitation when confronting adversaries such as Iran. To Moskowitz, that isn't realism, it's incoherence. A country that punishes its friends and winks at its rivals projects not strength but confusion. Rubio's response was predictably rigid: no enrichment ever. On paper, that sounds decisive. But foreign policy isn't written on paper. It's lived in the unpredictable realities of international power. Saying never doesn't make it so. Iran's pursuit of nuclear capability has always been shaped by its perception of U.S. intent. The more absolute Washington's stance, the more Tehran justifies defiance. That's the paradox of deterrence. When you draw a line too sharply, you sometimes push the other side to test it. Moskowitz's questioning hinted at this, even if he didn't spell it out. He was pressing for nuance in a room addicted to slogans. Then came the pivot to the leak about Israel's potential strike on Iran, a moment that peeled back another layer of dysfunction. Moskowitz asked a direct question: where did that leak come from? Rubio dodged, joked about polygraph tests, and waved away responsibility. But his evasiveness revealed something bigger: a government increasingly at war with itself. When agencies start interrogating their own employees to track down leaks, it's not discipline, it's paranoia. That tells us more about the culture of fear inside this administration than any statement about Iran ever could. A confident government doesn't need to muzzle its staff. It earns loyalty through trust. Moskowitz also reminded Rubio of the constitutional foundation he once championed. As a senator, Rubio argued that any nuclear deal had to go through Congress. Now, as secretary, he seemed less eager to defend that principle. This is the heart of Moskowitz's critique: the steady erosion of checks and balances, replaced by an executive branch that treats consultation as optional. For viewers trying to understand the deeper story, this is where the real tension lies. It's not just about one deal with Iran. It's about whether America still believes in governing through institutions or through personalities. The broader lesson here is that foreign policy is a mirror of domestic values. When a nation abandons its internal guardrails, oversight, consistency, accountability, it eventually loses moral authority abroad. Moskowitz's frustration wasn't only with policy outcomes, it was with the hypocrisy that erodes the very idea of American credibility. If you condemn autocrats for silencing dissent, but shrug when your own government suppresses transparency, you can't claim the moral high ground. And when you promise no enrichment ever without a plan for diplomacy, you replace strategy with rhetoric. So what Moskowitz delivered wasn't just a line of questioning, it was a civics lesson disguised as a confrontation. He asked whether power without principle can ever keep America safe, and whether the country has learned anything from decades of repeating the same cycle of threats and retreats. Viewers should come away from this hearing understanding that consistency in foreign policy isn't about stubbornness, it's about integrity. You can't demand accountability from other nations if you refuse to practice it at home. Moskowitz's exchange with Rubio shows how fragile that balance has become. It reminds us that the real test of leadership isn't how loudly you talk about strength, it's whether you have the courage to match your words with wisdom. Because when strategy becomes theater, even the strongest nation starts to look unsure of itself. You're watching Left Lens, where we break through the noise and make sense of the power plays shaping our world. If this helped you see the bigger picture, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay informed, stay critical, and stay human.